Y'all ready to have some fun? I know all of yins are definitely ready to have some fun with this episode. A lot of historical artifacts to go over after the Penguins' 11-2 beatdown of the Detroit Red Wings yesterday. I'm going to go over my thoughts on that game and what that meant for the Penguins moving forward. We're also going to hopefully do a small preview for Tuesday's massive matchup against the New York Rangers. I have all of that and a whole lot more coming up right after this drop.
You're Locked On Penguins, your daily podcast on the Pittsburgh Penguins, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I am your host, Hunter Hodes. Remember to follow me on Twitter at Hunter Hodes. Follow the show's Twitter at @LO_Penguins. Today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. That is BetOnline, where the game starts. And always, of course, thank you all so much for making this your first listen of the day. So we are here for another episode of this podcast as the Pittsburgh Penguins absolutely destroyed the Detroit Red Wings on Sunday evening, an 11-2 final score. Penguins are the first team in the salary cap era to ever score 11 goals in one game. They're also the first team in the NHL to score 11 goals in a game since 2003, when the Washington Capitals did that. And guess who was on that team? Jaromir Jagr. There's a nice little fun fact for you all with that day. It was right after Jagr left the Penguins, of course. Also, the Penguins had a shorthanded goal in that game. Fun fact, that was the Penguins' first shorthanded goal against the Red Wings since February of 2017, when Tom Kuhnhackl, two-time Stanley Cup champion, scored a shorty against Detroit. Penguins also hit the 40-win mark yesterday. They have the most 40-plus win seasons since 2006-07. So basically, almost of all these salary cap era, the Penguins have the most, 40-plus win seasons during that. This is now the 14th 40-plus win season for the Penguins. San Jose has 12. Washington's at 11. Nashville's 11. And Boston is at 11. This fan base is forever spoiled. And you all will always be a spoiled fan base. This was also the Penguins' first time they've scored 10-plus goals in a game since 2012, Game 4, Philadelphia Flyers. That was a 10-3 final. Jordan Staal had a hat trick. I'm pretty sure Steve Sullivan also scored in that game. Chris Letang scored in that one. I think, Matt Cook had a goal in that one too. But that was also the game where I believe a Flyers fan gave Jordan Staal the double bird after he got the hat trick. I actually went back. Danny Shirey of DK Pittsburgh Sports touched on it in a tweet to me, went back and watched, and sure enough, Jordan did get a couple birds from some Flyers fans after that. So definitely a lot of history when it comes to this game. But, overall, looking at this performance, this was a very good game by the Penguins. And I know the numbers may not say that. The shots were pretty even. The score effects were also pretty even. Shot attempts for, scoring chances for. Let me take a sip of water. Sorry about that. Scoring chances, shot attempts, high danger, expected goals. It was all pretty close. But the fact of the matter was the Red Wings got some awful goaltending in that game. I don't understand why Alex Nedeljkovic started that game. I'm going to get to that in just a second. But, the Penguins were also able to finish their chances a lot better than they normally do. And, it didn't matter if it was shorthanded, 5-on-5, or on the power play. The Penguins were making some beautiful, cross ice passes. There's one power play goal I think that Rust had, about 3 beautifully executed high danger passes in a row. And then Sid was able to somehow fit that last one into Brian. He's able to pot that one into an empty net. I still don't know how Sid is doing that at this age, but I'm never going to be a person to doubt Sidney Crosby. That's for sure. But at the end of the day, the Red Wings got bad goaltending. The Penguins finished their chances, and this is what you get. I also will say I think part of it was due to the Penguins being super pissed off. You don't piss off the Pittsburgh Penguins and get away with it. I said that on the national show on Monday morning. You can go check that out with Gil Martin. I was just on Around the 412 with Smitty and Tyler Weeks. Go check out their show. They do an amazing job with Pirates, Steelers, and Penguins. But the fact of the matter is, it was only a matter of time for how this team was going to respond. And from the opening shift against Detroit, I said to myself, all right, they looked a hell of a lot better than they did on Friday against New York, and a hell of a lot better than they did on Wednesday in Buffalo. And that's how you snap out of a little funk and start playing some better hockey, especially now right now, we're close to 4.5 weeks away from the playoffs at this point. But, Detroit was skating in mud, for part of that game. They were coming off a back-to-back because they lost to Tampa Bay the day before. I believe that was a 2-1 final. Nedeljkovic started that, and then Lightning scored with like 5 minutes left in the third. It looked like it was about to go to overtime, actually. But, the Penguins, they used the rest to their advantage, just like the Rangers did on Friday. The Penguins definitely had some very tired legs. But this time they didn't. They were have a nice day of rest on Saturday after some practice. And then they come out on Sunday, guns a-blazing, even though, the score effects and the shots were really close. They were still the better team. And, that's how you beat the lower teams in the conference. You want to secure a playoff berth and you want to go out and get home ice for at least one round in the playoffs. I don't think they're going to win the division at this point. These are the kind of games you have to win, especially with how the schedule is going to be moving forward. They have Colorado twice coming up, Minnesota, the Rangers twice, Nashville still, Washington, Boston twice, the Islanders 2 more times. Edmonton is at the end of April. This is going to be the gauntlet phase 2 for the Penguins. And, you got to clean up your points against the bad teams in the NHL, and that's exactly what the Penguins did. Detroit, they're not a basement-dwelling team. I think this is probably, compared to recent years, they're a lot better. They actually have NHL talent that they can put on that roster now. Mo Seider is an incredible defenseman. Nedeljkovic is usually a better goalie than what we saw yesterday. And I think it's only really a matter of time before Steve Yzerman has them on the right track. He's one of the best general managers in hockey. But, it was what the Penguins did yesterday was just, flat out embarrassing to Detroit. That's for sure. And, obviously Evgeni Malkin gets the hat trick. He's up to 16 goals now, only 4 away from another 20-goal season. It is crazy to me that he's already almost at 20, and he's been playing for 2.5 months. This guy is unreal, and his skating is only continuing to get better. He had a beautiful Geno bomb for one of his goals. When he's really starting to get that one-timer going, it's pretty serious. He was skating, sorry about that, just fine when he originally came back, but right now he looks like a completely different player. Knock on wood, if he doesn't get hurt and his skating continues to be like this going into the playoffs, I'm telling you, man, the Penguins are going to be one tough out, to say the least. He also he had the game-winning goal yesterday because the Red Wings, they had 2 of their goals, but Malkin's third one. The Penguins' third goal was Malkin's. That is now 73 career game-winning goals. If I check my notes here, 1 away from tying Jaromir Jagr for the most game-winning goals in franchise history. I am sure Geno is going to pass him either this season or probably next season at this rate. That is a record that he'll have, at least for right now, until potentially Sidney Crosby passes him. Another historical artifact for you all. Sidney Crosby only a few points away now from 1,400 NHL points. I believe the total right now is 1,394, about 4 away from Alexander Ovechkin. Sid's going to pass him when it's all said and done, in my opinion. The fact that, he's only 4 away and Ovechkin's played in almost 200 more games. That's crazy to say the least. Sid right now tied for 23rd all-time in NHL scoring with Luc Robitaille. Once he passes him, Jari Kurri's at 22, Ovechkin's at 21. Dale Hawerchuk is at 20 with 1409. Sid is going to climb this. He'll be in the top 15 by next season. Stan Mikita is at 1467 right now. Other than that, with Paul Coffey at 1531, Mark Recchi 1533, Joe Thorne at 1536 right now. We'll have to see if he can crack the top 10, which has Phil Esposito right now with 1,590. I would be really curious to see if Sid can finish his career with 1,600. That would be, excuse me, just, awesome at this point. So this first segment, mainly a lot of historical artifacts, but, great game by the Pittsburgh Penguins, a bounce back win that they needed to have because they were struggling those last couple of games. And this is what contending teams do. When the coach calls them out a little bit, and when Sid, I wouldn't say he calls out the rest of the team, but he said, I know I need to be a lot better, and the rest of the team needs to be a lot better. And they back that up with this kind of win. That just goes to show what kind of group this team is, to say the least. Have a lot more to get to for this episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast, including, why Detroit even started Alex Nedeljkovic. The penalty kill was awesome, and a whole lot more. We got to get into some depth talk with, maybe is Rodrigues going to come out of the lineup when the team is, knock on wood, fully healthy? Of course, we got the Rangers preview to get to. So much to still talk about for this episode. But this is the time of year that I've pretty much given up on all of my New Year's resolutions, but not this year. I'm sticking to my resolution to eat right, thanks to Built Bar. Almost feel like it's not really a resolution because I actually enjoy eating them. Have you tried the Puffs? If you haven't, you are missing out on one of Built Bar's best tasting bars. Puffs are the first ever protein-infused marshmallow. They're fluffy, they are marshmallowy, and they're not just a protein bar. They are a treat, and they're covered in 100% real chocolate. Heck, all Built Bars are covered in 100% real chocolate. Yes, Puffs are included. You can go to Built.com right now and scroll down to the macros chart. You're going to be blown away by what you see. At Built Bar, they're all about the taste. They make it taste delicious first, then figure out how to make it healthy. And I don't know how, but they pull it off every single time. You can go to Built.com, use promo code LOCK15 and get 15% off your order. That's promo code LOCK15 for 15% off at Built.com. All right, we're back down here on this episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I am your host, Hunter Hodes. Remember to follow me on Twitter at Hunter Hodes. Follow the show's Twitter at LO_Penguins. So, getting into some of the other goals that were scored in that game. The shorty came courtesy of Jeff Carter. It's nice to see that he's starting to play well after some people on Penguins Twitter called him out. And don't get me wrong, I think Carter has definitely been struggling a little bit these last few weeks. He's not been the same player that we all saw last year, though. Did anyone expect him to have that same kind of production that we saw when he had 16 points in 20 games? That was not going to happen. Sorry about that. I had to take another sip of water. I'm going to be doing that a lot more. I feel like my mouth just gets so dry when I just talk for 25 to 30 minutes. But, it was nice to see him get on the score sheet again. That's his second straight game with a goal. I believe now he has 3 goals in his last 9 games total. I like him on the PK. It's been a nice role to have him in ever since Zach Asmus was traded. He wasn't really getting too many penalty killing minutes, if I'm not mistaken, when I've been watching all these games. So it's nice to new inkling, I guess, for Mike Sullivan's trying to do. And, he got rewarded with a shorthanded goal. But, that was also made possible by Teddy Blueger. And, I think it's beyond time that people start talking about him as a top 5 penalty killer in the NHL. And, my evidence, I can give you all the numbers that I want, what the PK looks like, numbers wise with him in it versus when he's not in it. But I can also just use the eye test and see that, he does so much on that unit, whether it's, getting clears that other players can't, forechecking. And I shouldn't even say forechecking the defense zone. That doesn't even make any sense. Whether it's, just digging for loose pucks along the boards even when he's outnumbered, getting them and still getting them out. And then heck, setting up those shorthanded chances. He is so great. It is a night and day difference for the PK when Teddy Blueger is on it versus when he's off of it. And, the percentages obviously went down to 70 to 75%. When he was off it, now it's going back up. And again, I wonder why. He also scored a goal yesterday, a pass from Rodrigues. He did some damage at 5v5 too. He is, I'm not going to say he's close. He's as close to an irreplaceable player as you can get. That's not one of the big core players. He's been that good this year, and he continues to develop into a very, very solid, third to fourth line center. So I can't be more happy with him right now. Just doing a great job killing penalties. Heck, even against the Rangers, when the Rangers had a few power plays, they really couldn't get anything going because, a lot of that has to do with Teddy Blueger, to say the least. Brian Boyle, he gets his 8th goal of the year. He was the one, of course, that actually got his goal number 10 for the Penguins. It got the Penguins' first time scoring 10 in a decade. I thought this was a nice game for him. It was a good bounce back from Brian because against New York and Buffalo, you could definitely see that his legs weren't there. And, I think that's one of my biggest worries with him going into a playoff series. How are those old man legs going to, I guess, what's the word I'm looking for, I guess? Oh, hold up, of course. In a 7-game series against some of the fastest teams in the league. Do I think if this team is fully healthy, is he in the playoff lineup? Probably not. I think people can make a case for it, but I think he's still better served at this point as a 13th to 14th forward. I've loved what he's brought this year. Obviously, he's big in the locker room. All of his teammates love him. All that. He's backed up, that was some strong on ice play for a lot of the season. But, I still don't think when the team is fully healthy, he should be in the top 12. That's just my opinion. But it was still nice to see him get on the scoreboard. Rickard Rakell, a beautiful goal for his first as a Penguin. He's been getting, as close to ever, for scoring, a couple really nice saves by Nedeljkovic before he got chased. There was the time against Buffalo. He went 1v3 against them, almost made everyone drop their trousers and just basically change them at this point. He's been playing really well, and he's also a lot more physical than I thought he would be. I know the Penguins are not a physical team. I don't need them to be. This is a speed and skill team, just like, a team like Tampa. Florida, I think, is that way too. Colorado, especially. But, Rickard can really throw the lumber. He's fun to watch hit at least a few times. And, I know that's probably maybe a little boomer of me. I'm not really too big on the hitting and stuff. I know I do like a clean hit, once a game or something like that. But, he's been definitely making a difference in that department, to say the least. Evgeni Malkin's goal, he definitely made me, and I think a lot of other Penguin fans had to change their shorts after what he did to the Red Wings for his second goal, just knifing through guys left and right. And then being able to finish that, that was just a peak Gino goal. When he's playing like this, good luck stopping him. He's, one of the 5 best players in hockey, when he's at this level. I've read people say on social media and stuff that, when he was in his peak all the time and when he was really going, he was potentially even better than a peak Sidney Crosby. And honestly, with how he was in his Hart Trophy season, and, at times after that, especially in the playoffs, I don't really think that's arguable, to say the least. He was a man on a mission in that game. And I wonder, do people still think that Evgeni Malkin hurts the structure? Do people still think the Penguins can't win without Gino? Or, are we putting those weird takes to bed, as I've seen some people still saying, his plus minus or whatever dumb stat that doesn't even matter to be put out there. And it's just like, the team is winning games. They're obviously so much better when he's in the lineup. I do not want to hear people blur out those takes. If you are one of those people, I feel sorry for you, to say the least. But, what a goal that was. And, speaking of, Nedeljkovic, Detroit-wise, I don't even know why he started this game. I understand, Calvin Pickard, he's not the greatest backup goaltender, but you just played a game the day before. You're out of the playoff race at this point. Why are you starting your starter when he just faced a ton of shots the day before against a very stacked Tampa Bay Lightning team? It's something that I definitely do not understand. I don't really know what Jeff Blashill is doing there. I think, honestly, in my opinion, I don't think Jeff Blashill is going to be in Detroit next year. I think sorry about that. I think he honestly probably needs to be fired at this point. He's going to ruin some young players that they have there. Hopefully it's not Raymond or Sider, Larkin and, Tyler Bertuzzi and all those guys. But I have a bad feeling about his tenure. It's crazy that he's still even there. considering that the Red Wings have barely even made the playoffs during his tenure. So I think I have almost every single. I already said the Brian Rust power play goal. That was just some mint passing. I mean, again, 3 in a row high danger passes. It is crazy that I think Adam Gretz of Pennsburg and Pro Hockey Talk said this best. That's a play that you scream when you love it because they try it, but when they try it and it doesn't work and the passes get picked off, you say, "Oh, don't try this ever again." It's funny to see the double standard, right? To say the least. But I'm going to just make sure I grab everything here from my notes, and all that for the goals. I believe I do have everything. Sidney Crosby, he got on the score sheet again with 3 points. One of them goals, of course. Danton Heinen, he was able to get his 14th of the year, 3 away now from having a new career high. He had 16 with the Boston Bruins a few years ago. Would not be surprised if he has 17 this year. He's been quite the depth signing, to say the least. Coming up in the next segment, we're going to go into some potential lineup decisions as the team hopefully continues to get fully healthy. There's some really good news on the Jason Zucker front. And if I have time, I'm going to preview a very massive game for the Pittsburgh Penguins on Tuesday. So stick around for that coming up after this commercial break. All right, we're back here on this episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I am your host, Hunter Hodes. Remember to follow me on Twitter at Hunter Hodes. Follow the show's Twitter at LO_Penguins. So I saw this during the game when it's basically out of reach. This came courtesy of, I have written down here, yes, Josh Yohe of The Athletic. One of my favorite writers, been on the show so many times. I have the utmost respect for him. He's a great person. But I definitely disagreed with him when he said that Danton Heinen could be a potential scratch in the playoffs. I don't really know where that's coming from personally. The guy has 14 goals this year. He's the perfect depth scorer for this team. He's fit Mike Sullivan's system to a T. If there is a player that you're thinking about bringing out of the lineup when the team is fully healthy, with Brock McGinn and Jason Zucker back, it's probably Evan Rodrigues. And, I know what the underlying numbers say on that top line with Jake Ensel and Sidney Crosby. The expected goals lately, I think it's been above 80%. Their Corsi's right around 65 to 70, I'm pretty sure. They have better underlying numbers with Rodrigues up there than they do with Brian Rust. However, here's the kicker. Evan Rodrigues, fully production-wise, has 2 goals in his last 33 games. That's not good enough. You have players in waiting, with a fully healthy lineup, like Radim Zohorna. He's been really good in the lineup. He got his first goal of the season just a couple of games ago. Had a really nice pass to Teddy Blueger to get the primary assist on his goal against the Red Wings on Sunday. I could definitely see him staying in the lineup if Mike Sullivan wants him to. Remember, he's also on a one-way deal next year, so I do think he's probably going to be on this team no matter what next year. But I do want to see more of him down the stretch. If that comes at the expense of scratching Evan Rodrigues, I'm not really going to mind that too much because, he's had the time here to, get back to some of that production that we saw early in the year. I'm not going to sit here and say he's going to score 6 goals in 10 games again to end the year and have 13 points in 10 games like he was during that really hot stretch. That's whatever. But I do want to see more of a pulse from him at this point because it hasn't been there lately. So if there's a roster decision to make Penguins wise, it's definitely involving Evan Rodrigues. Defensively, I think they're set. Though I will say, I am starting to get a little more concerned with Brian Dumoulin. This player that I've loved ever since he came up from Wilkes-Barre. He had a great tryout during the 2014-15 series against the Rangers when the team was decimated by injuries. Crystal Tang was out of that series. I'm pretty sure Oli Mata didn't even play that series. But this year, I don't know if it's the aging curve catching up to him just because he's 30 now, or if he's playing through an injury, but it's not good. And what they do this summer surrounding him is going to be really interesting. Obviously, we're going to cross that bridge when we come to it. But, I can't help but, not be concerned right now that his play has been slipping. And honestly, for all of you, in my opinion, I think his play has been dipping for the last couple of weeks. It's just not been the same Dumoulin that I'm used to seeing, even defensively. It looks like he's scared to even take contact, not winning a lot of puck battles like he used to. Offensively, I know his game has really not been there, but even that has also regressed even, further down. And that's also scared me a little bit as well. So, if there's one concern really that I have with the team right now, other than, maybe Tristan Jarry barfing all over himself in the playoffs again, though I don't think that's going to happen. It's potentially the play of Brian Dumoulin on the top pairing because he can't afford to bring Chris Letang down, to say the least. But, as I promised, also, Jason Zucker is back skating with the team, full non-contact capacity right now. It's only a matter of time before he's full contact. I would say within the next week or two, he is going to be back playing. And there's going to be some tough lineup decisions for Mike Sullivan to have. Brock McGinn, I think, is not far behind him. He's already starting to skate, has one hand on his stick. He doesn't have the hand that has the cast on it, which leads me to believe that it's, a broken hand / a broken wrist or something like that. So, the Penguins, they're getting closer here with about 4.5 weeks to go to being fully healthy. Next up, a massive, and I mean a massive game on Tuesday night against the New York Rangers. They absolutely crushed Pittsburgh on Friday night, 5-1 at MSG. The Penguins are going to come after them with blood. I'm going to say that right now. That you are not going to see that kind of performance on Tuesday night. Take it to the bank. I don't know if the Penguins are going to win the game, but I'm going to say it right now. They are going to come out here with a much better effort, to say the least. That's going to be a great game. I'm going to try to see if I can have Nick Zararis of the Upper Blue GM podcast on for either Tuesday or Wednesday's episode. We also have a crossover episode coming up this week with Seth Topol of Locked on Wild, because the Wild have been really good lately. And of course, the Penguins go to Minnesota to play the Wild on Thursday before traveling to the Pepsi Center on Saturday to play the Avalanche. I always love watching the Avalanche play. They're just such a fun team. But that'll do it for this episode. Just an amazing win by the Penguins. And I believe the magic number right now, I'll leave you all with this. It's 11-12. The Islanders and the Blue Jackets can only reach 101 points. Those are the 9th and 10th place teams. Penguins need 11 points overall to tie that. And basically, right now, guys, about 15 games left. The Penguins need to win 5 games to clinch a playoff spot. Honestly, probably not even that, because the Islanders and the Blue Jackets are not going to win the remaining 16 to 18 games. So, honestly, it's probably 3 to 5 wins at this point gets them to the playoffs. Obviously, the Penguins have way higher aspirations than to just get into the dance, but just wanted to put that out there. The Penguins are very close to clinching their spot into the Stanley Cup playoffs once again. So that'll do it for this episode. I appreciate all of you listening to this one. Obviously, a very happy episode and a very historic game to talk about. But I'll be back on Tuesday for a full game recap for that big game against the Rangers. And then on Wednesday, I think we'll have a crossover with Seth Topol of the Wild, and then we'll recap that game on Thursday. So again, thank you all so much for listening, and I will talk to you all on Tuesday.